This is the first recording of Pinot and Pixel from the United States in 2024. Last year I spent some days visiting VCon in Indianapolis and the year before in Minneapolis, and this year VCon will take place in Los Angeles. So this is the first episode recorded in LA. It's 35 degrees outside, it's quite warm and it's quite humid actually, surprisingly humid. Nevertheless, there's an air conditioner in the hotel room where I'm recording right now. The week in the drinks industry was dominated by two main topics. One was the harvest starting almost everywhere, and they're usually earlier than normal. We'll talk about that in a second. And secondly, last week we talked about the development of alcohol advertisement in Central Europe, especially in Germany, and there were more and more countries jumping on that train, and they want to change how to advertise alcohol or even ban the advertisement of alcohol. In parallel, TikTok decided to start advertising wine this week. And we will round everything up with some news from the industry and talking about big brands such as Treasury Wine Estates or Henkell Freixenet. Have fun! Welcome to the Pinot and Pixel podcast episode number 182, recorded live and directly for you in the United States in Los Angeles. We start with a topic that is related to the one that we talked about last week, advertisement in alcohol. And Germany is thinking about redefining their laws when it comes to alcohol advertising, and France has already done that. And we have seen some news out of Spain and Canada this week, because Spain draft alcohol advertising laws to tackle the underage consumption. And basically what is behind is limiting the advertisement of alcohol just in general, but they want to get rid of the problems they have with underage consumption. And the Minister of Health is following the recommendations of the WHO. And there's some interesting facts in that first draft. He said main things will be the limits of school advertisement, so alcohol advertisement near schools, equivalent educational centers, as well as parks and other places where they are designed for children. And this applies to 0.0 ABV drinks as well. So it's not only about the advertisement of alcohol, but also about drinks that try to impersonate stuff like that or want to be proxies for those categories such as beer and wine. Adults will also be prohibited from consuming alcohol at events that are intended for under 18s. So meaning, I don't know, when you are at a kindergarten party or at a school party, you won't be allowed to drink alcohol, although you're an adult, including concerts and children's sport fixtures. And this is an important thing. There will also be restrictions on television advertisement, which may not use the image or voice of persons under 21 years of age or pregnant women. And this draft is allocated for a public hearing, and the Congress is deciding about it at the end of the year, if it will be introduced or not. The main driver behind this draft is that, according to a recent study on a survey on drug use in Spain, especially in secondary education, alcohol is the biggest portion, makes the biggest portion, with 75.9% that have consumed it at some points in their life between 14 and 18. I guess the more difficult one is that among the 12 to 13-year-old students, it was 35% that have already consumed it. And with this draft, they want to master this problem. The next country jumping on that train is Canada. A senator over there calls for advertisement ban for beer, wine and liquor, and is also pushing the idea of alcohol warning labels on the drinks. And Senator Patrick Brazeau, who is basically the person behind that, tells the intent is simply to ban the advertisement and promotion of alcohol in Canada, like we have done it with tobacco products. And Canada was one of the first countries in the world that follow the recommendations of the WHO, saying no limit of alcohol is safe for consumption, and they lowered down their recommendation for drinking 1 or 2, depending on if you're a man or a woman, amounts of alcohol a day to 2 per week for a man and 1 per week for a woman. And right now they want even stricter rules for advertisement of alcohol. And this senator is pushing it with the draft. And basically the idea of the draft is almost the same. It's quite similar to the one of Spain, saying you won't be allowed to advertise alcohol in specific areas. But he didn't provide any details because he says it's still in progress. We don't want to talk about details at the moment. He says the bill is still being drafted and I won't speak about further details until it's ready to table it in the upper chamber. And of course, some big players in the industry try to conquer that progress, that draft, because especially when it comes to beer, the website of Beer Canada says that the balance of evidence does not support a direct causal relationship between overall drinking levels or harmful drinking patterns and advertising or marketing. Advertising moves consumption between brands but does not increase overall consumption levels. And I didn't find the time to research for studies on that, but I think there might be studies showing that if you don't advertise a specific product or a specific category, people consume it less, because there's so many things on the planet, good things we probably don't know about, or because it's not broadly advertised, and then of course it's consumed less. For example, I don't know, hop infused drinks or stuff like that, and this will grow in the future and people will advertise it more and more, and people will understand the categories, especially when it comes to non-alcoholic products. And of course, this marketing will also drive, the consumption will also drive sales. And this could also be the case for beer and wine. But I haven't found any studies on that, so we will postpone this to another episode. Generally saying, Canada is pushing this as well. Meanwhile, Europe, Germany, Spain, Canada is talking about banning alcohol advertisement. TikTok did a move in the other direction, because right now, at the beginning of August, the advertisement of alcohol is allowed on TikTok. There is specific rules in their advertising policy. The summary is basically you are allowed to advertise alcohol right now when it comes to the following points: alcohol brand sponsors events, music festivals, sporting events, alcohol mixers and accessories, and alcoholic or non-alcoholic or low-proof products are allowed to be advertised. You might need a license for that. And what is not allowed, and this is the more important part, alcoholic products that have been infused with THC or CBD, so crossover products, are not allowed to be advertised. Homemade alcoholic products or beverages are not allowed. Retail or e-commerce ads that promote the sale of alcohol or alcohol delivery services, because you cannot ensure that the person is 18 unless you use a specific delivery system. Targeting or appealing to individuals below the legal drinking age. This is understandable. You're not allowed to feature people below the age of 25. This is a very interesting part. Of course, you're not allowed to feature pregnant people, and it's not allowed to portray excessive drinking, intoxication, reckless behavior, or under the influence of alcohol. For example, hangover relief products are not allowed to be advertised. And we have talked about some of those products in Double O podcast as well. And it's not allowed to offer alcohol as prize rewards or promotings and stuff. So raffles, for example, win this bottle of XYZ, is not allowed on TikTok. And this is something different when it comes to alcohol advertisement when compared to Instagram, for example, because there you can do raffles. Maybe this will change in the future, but at the moment, this is something that TikTok has an eye on, and then, of course, they will try to follow this stuff up. In addition, brands that advertise alcoholic products or any use of permitted content should consider disabling comments on these ads, because as of the time of publication, TikTok does not verify that commenters are 21 years of age or older. Sometimes it could also be a good idea to disable comments in general, because often when you try to work with conscious or mindful drinking in an advertisement, there's many people jumping on a train saying, I don't know, no, it's good for me, I love the booze, it's just to get, I don't know, hammered or so. And it might be a good idea to switch them off as well. So this is what is going on in the advertisement industry. There's more to come, I guess. And of course, I will have an eye on what is happening on TikTok over the next couple of weeks and on meta such as tools such as Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook as well. Our next topics of the week, or our next main topic of the week, was the harvests all over the Northern Hemisphere. And the harvest 2024 in Napa Valley started with the grapes that usually are dedicated to the whites or the sparkling wines. And they started on August 6th in California. The Chardonnays, for example, you use for sparkling wines, or also the aromatic grape varieties. Of course, they talk about a great harvest as usual. They have been threatened by severe wildfires, so there's also a reduction in the crop. They're talking about a nice flavor development and juicy acidity, so it might not have been too hot. Some wineries started with Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier, also for the sparkling wines. And Sauvignon Blanc, one of the main grape varieties, the aromatic varieties, will also be harvested over the next 2 to 3 weeks. I hope I can visit some wineries and talk about their harvest, their current situation, maybe also the vintage and the development so far. I will spend the next 3 weeks over here, so I'll keep you updated. Then there was other countries as well, beginning with the harvest. Hungary had to start their harvest way earlier because they were threatened by a huge heat wave, and they were afraid of losing aromas and acidity and the sugar levels jumping high on their especially white aromatic varieties. So they started almost a month earlier than usual at the end of July and the beginning of August. This is not only impressive, but also surprising. And I mean, when you read that the climate has changed so much and Hungary has even turned into a almost continental climate with very, very hot summers, leading to concentrated fruit, overripe fruit, and sometimes cooked aromas, which you would not expect of a country in that area probably. At least 30, 40 years ago, it was totally different. And today, they say it's more comparable to a Mediterranean country. And what you also can read is that some of the Hungarian wine producers already say that they have to think about adapting their vineyards, their wine production to the climate change, maybe with different varieties, maybe switching from red to white wine, and also looking for varieties that are more suitable for the warmer climate. So maybe we will see some, I don't know, Grenache in the future in Hungary. There is Cabernet Franc, there is, they have their own local varieties as well. Picaver, for example, quite interesting grape variety, by the way. But definitely Hungary was hit by this heat wave, and this is not the first time that they experience the problems with the climate change. Nevertheless, this is really a big thing for them, starting at least 1 month earlier. And quite close to them, talking about their neighbor Austria. This article is from Der Winzer, a magazine talking about winemaking and viticulture in Austria. And they said they have the earliest harvest in more than 4 decades in Austria, when they started at the end of July or the beginning of August. Usually they start in the mid of August. The first harvest, the earliest variety they usually harvest is Bouvier. And they said we could harvest it because the sugar levels were adequate, and also we had to harvest it because otherwise it would jump too high. Same thing as usual. And while Hungary and Austria are starting earlier with the harvest, just looking down to Croatia, we talked about Priorat and California in the last weekly update. Croatia also was hit by a severe wildfire and lost many hectares of crop right before the harvest to the wildfire. So it's getting hotter and hotter, especially in Central Europe. Climate is changing, and we will definitely have to rethink our idea of winemaking and viticulture, especially in the Central European countries. And last but not least, the harvest in Sicily also started 2 weeks earlier. Last week was already communicated that Sicily started at the 22nd of July with their harvest, so 2 weeks earlier than usual, and because it was so hot and the fruit was so concentrated, sugar level is going high, alcohol is going high, acidity is going low, and they had to harvest especially the aromatic varieties also in Sicily. So everything is painting a picture of we have to rethink our viticulture. And of course, also the way how we treat our planet in a way that we can handle the climate change and try to influence it in a positive way. The next three topics fall under the section of crimes and scandals. Some vineyards in Bordeaux have been fined for neglected vineyards. So wineries that are not working their vineyards anymore, that abandon their vineyards, usually those vineyards are a part of the program of the pull-out program of Bordeaux, where they try to get rid of 15% of the vineyard area. We talked about that in recent episodes. And right now Bordeaux started to fine wineries that are not working in the vineyards anymore, because neglected vineyards are a breeding ground for wine diseases. For example, Flavescence dorée, it endangers viticulture. So it doesn't matter if you work conventionally or organically, if you don't spray, if you don't cut the vines, if you don't treat the vineyards or the vines in a way that you can master the development of diseases, then you'll have a problem. And not only you, but also your neighbors, because I guess if you are not working in your vineyard, you don't care at all, but your neighbors might do. So this is a big thing. And right now they started to fine the wineries. And in addition, usually they wanted to be faster. We talked about that in the last episode. Bordeaux wanted to be faster when it comes to pulling out wines, getting rid of a vineyard area that is not needed anymore, that is not processed anymore. But due to the weather, due to the development in general, and of course also to the availability of resources, this is going slower than expected. And this is also one way where they try to handle the situation and master this problem. Then, from our section True Crime, we have talked about this guy who was caught in February this year. It was a trusted Burgundy worker who stole 8,000 bottles of wine from his former employees. He was working for Joseph Trouin, for Albert Bichot, so for the big négociants, for the big producers. And over a decade, I guess, he stole wines with a worth of $650,000. And the interesting thing is, he was just a kleptomanic collector. So he never wanted to sell those bottles or wanted to earn money with them. He just stole it and wanted to drink it. And of course they caught him, and right now he was fined for 1 year in prison and $10,000 to pay as a fine. We are talking about 7,000 to 8,000 bottles of wine in a value between $100 and $1,000. In total, 1,285 Grand Cru from Côte de Nuit and Von Romanée. So he had a very specific and very expensive taste. So he knew what he was doing. And the third topic is more a funnier one. Aldi did a very, very funny marketing move. Retailers from Aldi went undercover at a royal show, at a royal jumping event, and they provided their wines out of the 4 to 6 pounds area and asked the people if they like it or not. There's a YouTube video, a link in the show notes, where a fake wine merchant called Justin Giraldi poured glasses of red, white and rosé. People from the higher society at the Royal International Horse Show in West Sussex. And he says this is fine wine, and he wanted to have the opinion of the people. And they all liked it. And this is what we have talked about so often in that podcast. Usually when it comes to wine, it's all about taste. And if you don't know what you're drinking and you're not specialized in getting quality out of a wine, even though you don't like the taste, if you are served an average, well-made commercial wine with a bit of sugar, with balanced tannins and acidity, you usually tend to like it. The 0.5% or so of people who are super into fine wine and who are able and who also want to discover or detect the high quality products in between the other ones, so the bad wines in disguise. I guess I lost my point right now. What I wanted to say is, for me, it is not a surprise at all that if you serve wines blindly that are made to please the broader palate, that people tend to like it. And what was really interesting and also a good thing is that some people out of the tasting said, I can't believe that, I'm staggered, I'm off to Aldi, you've won a customer. So it's not about, oh no, this is not true, I was kidding or stuff like that, because sometimes when people discover that they tend to like the lower quality, cheaper wines, they are looking for arguments that something went wrong or that they didn't mean to say this and that. I had a tasting with high quality sparkling wines traditional method, and I also served a Rotkäppchen tank method, and most people like this one the most because it is what it is. It's a tasty wine suiting broader palates. So yeah, quite funny, interesting marketing move as well. And Aldi is pushing a lot, especially in the wine industry. We talked about some advertisement moves such as this one, or the other ones with the terroir-based marketing. And we also talked about their non-hangover wines, something that might be difficult to advertise in Europe, but at least in England it is allowed to say this wine won't give you hangover. Alcohol-free wine from Aldi. So right now we will go through the industry and brand news, and we start up with Château d'Isson. It's a Troisième Grand Cru winery, so third growth winery in Bordeaux, in Margaux. So quite an impressive appellation, and more the elegant wine styles of the left bank of Bordeaux. And they have been working on an innovative wine concept over the last couple of years. And right now they are launching a white wine that is made of, let's say, different varieties that you would expect from Bordeaux. And this is also the reason why it is labeled as Vin de France, because in Bordeaux you also only allowed to use Sauvignon, Semillon and Muscadet. And this white wine is made of Marsanne, Viognier, Roussanne and Vermentino. So basically varieties that are usually more found in the area of northern and southern Rhone and in Italy. Nevertheless, this is something they made because they say it's interesting varieties, they're more suitable, especially when it comes to climate change, and they are not approved under the Bordeaux AOC, so we have to sell it as Vin de France, but we don't care. And the company behind Château d'Isson is the company of Cruz. Cruz has a very, very interesting history. Maybe I will do an extra episode on them, because the Cruz family is also the family that, especially their story, brought me into Bordeaux. It really led my interest in Bordeaux grow. But this is a different story. Cruz said we have to start experimenting with different things because we have an eye on climate change, and our parcel with 1.7 hectares with the whites brought us to the decision that we should make wine like that. And what I liked the most about this article is that Cruz said we are on the 45th parallel, and these grapes are grown on the 45th parallel in Piedmont and Gros-Hermitage, so it was a bit experimental, but why not? If after 10 vintages we realize one variety makes a better wine, then we could readapt. It's time to anticipate and innovate. And this is something that not only Bordeaux needs, but especially Bordeaux with its history and the development of in recent years, but this is also something that every wine region should do way more often, as we just mentioned when we talked about the harvests. Talking about changing the wine industry, in the US, and this is not something Trump did, this is something the US government did, the US introduced tariffs on wine bottle companies, or the import of wine bottles from Chile, China and Mexico, with a value of 218% in a maximum. Can you imagine that? So saying you have a bottle that you can import for, I don't know, 40 cents, and right now you have to pay 125 for one bottle out of this country. I mean, basically the idea behind that is anti-dumping investigations, or they try to get rid of cheap import products and want to push their local industry. I don't know if there is so many glass producers in the US, but at least we have seen this quite often in the last 10 years or so in the US. Trump, when he was the president of the United States, also introduced tariffs on wines out of specific countries. This time it's tariffs on the glass wine bottles, so basically the material you need to bottle your wines. Mexico was hit very hard. 3 companies have to pay almost 97% tariffs. I don't know how they set the level, which company has to pay what taxes. It's a bit weird. I had a chat with an American during the breakfast this morning, and he also told me that even in between the specific areas of a country or of a state, there is different taxes and nobody gets it. And it's even worse when you talk about net prices, because sometimes you have no idea how much is added when it comes to taxes. I guess they know what they're doing, but it's especially as a foreigner, it's very confusing. Coming from wine bottles and their tariffs, we'll head over to the UK, where the non-alcoholic beer has become the entry-level pint. What does this mean? We have talked about the new generation, the next generation customers that are not only experimenting a lot and want to discover other things, they also either drink no alcohol at all or barely drink alcohol. So before starting discovering or navigating their way through all the other styles, they start with probably the easiest accessible product when it comes to alcohol-free drinks, the alcohol-free beer. And usually when I talk about alcohol-free products, I normally say people producing products like that, they usually don't want to make a replacement of the original one. They want to introduce a whole new category, a whole new product to the industry. But of course, this is quite tough to advertise. It's also quite tough to address to the people. I mean, if I, let's say, create a beer, alcohol-free with hops and then added flavors and, I don't know, juices maybe, how do you even call it? And who do you address it to? It's easier to have those bridge products, those proxies where you say this is an alcohol-free beer, this is an alcohol-free wine, where you try to imitate the original one. And the interesting point in this article was an interview with a guy of the brewery, Kennel-based brewer, Bowness Bay. He says, do we want to mimic a beer or make a new product? At the moment, we are aiming to mimic beers. And I think that's the best way. I would prefer to go at the moment, because making nearly beers is easier to understand for the people. It's easier to market. This was my own words, but basically this is what he wanted to transport. Maybe in the future there will be other products as well, but at the moment, especially when it comes to beer and wine, it's easy to say this is alcohol-free beer, this is alcohol-free wine. And what we also talked about a lot, the alcohol-free beer, in my opinion, is the product that is the easiest way to replicate, to mimic a category, and the easiest accessible product for alcohol-free drinkers. And this is also the reason why it has become the entry-level beer, the entry-level pint in bars and restaurants in the UK. And this is the perfect transition to the marketing deal of the year when it comes to alcohol-free products. Arsenal London has signed the first ever non-alcoholic beer partner contract of the Premier League. And this is an absolute sensation. And right now, if you're asking which company has done it, who could it be? It could be Heineken, probably. It could be Guinness, but Guinness could be tough to enter the Premier League, but it could be possible. No, it's Athletic Brewing. So the US-based company that recently had this huge funding over 50 million euro, sitting at around 800 million euro company value, is entering the English market, the British market. And this move is a part of their campaign to become bigger in the UK. And right now, they are the partner of Arsenal FC. There were no numbers published. I tried to find out how big the deal really is. We are currently talking about the introduction of Run Wild IPA product in the Emirates Stadium. And additionally, it will be also served on draught at the club level. So this is just the beginning, but guys, this is absolutely crazy for the industry. Hopefully, I will be able to try athletic brewing in a second. I heard so many things about athletic brewing, and I definitely have to taste their products. And I already figured out that there's some shops quite close to the hotel where the products are sold. So keep you updated. Talking about selling stuff, Treasury Wine Estates separates from private labels. I will put the link in the show notes of the official announcement of the official statement of Treasury Wine Estates. It's quite complex, talking about numbers and stuff, but there was a good summary in Meiningers. So basically, a couple of months ago, Treasury Wine Estates said that they wanted to restructure their whole portfolio. They have an entry-level line, they call it retail, under €6 per bottle. Then they have a premium line between €6 and €18, and then they have a luxury line, €18 and more. And they will more and more focus on premium and luxury and try to get rid of the retail part. So going premium, this is what many brands do. We recently talked about Pernod Ricard, and right now Treasury Wine Estates is following up. They sold Wolf Blass, Yellow Glen, Lindemans and Blossom Hill to Constellation for a disclosed sum. I wasn't able to spot anything else because in the beginning I thought that this is it, under 74 million. This is just the impairment for the fiscal year. So they will focus more on Wins, Pepper Jacks, Squealing Pigs and 19 Crimes, because those were the biggest, the most successful brands over the last years, falling under this premium segment and luxury in some areas at least. So there's a lot going on in the wine industry, especially when it comes to moving big brands, well-known brands around. More and more are focusing on premium, and this will definitely not be the last in the future. When it comes to big brands and selling, interesting news this week from Henkell Freixenet, one of the biggest sparkling wine producers in Central Europe. They saw a climb of 16% in Crémant sales. And last year, Crémant saw a rise of 3% in total on the category. And Henkell Freixenet says that they were growing faster than the market. They sold 16% more. Main market is France and Germany. Nevertheless, they also won in the UK and in the United States. So Crémant is having its moment. Champagne is in the decline because it also is sitting at a higher price level. Of course, higher quality maybe, but nevertheless, people are spending less, are focusing on alternatives, and Crémant is definitely a very, very good alternative when it comes to traditional method sparkling wine. And this is definitely a trend that will go on, and maybe other regions focused on traditional method will also be able to have an increase in sales. I don't know, Franciacorta, for example, Tento Dog, German sect, or Austrian sect, for example, and hopefully English sparkling as well, because everything we're comparing the same quality levels is cheaper than champagne, because in champagne you pay 250 years of experience in sales, in marketing, and in research, of course. That's the main difference, guys. And last but not least, a very, very funny news this week coming from Moet Hennessy's brand Cloudy Bay. Cloudy Bay is a very, very famous wine brand from New Zealand. They have become famous for making premium Sauvignon Blanc in a screw cap. Were famous worldwide, and they launched an AI bot that crafts your own out-of-office email replies. So how does it work? You enter your plan for the next 2 to 3 days. I don't know, I will go shopping, and then I will sit on the beach, and then I will have dinner with friends, and then the AI chatbot crafts your very personal out-of-office reply. You can just copy and paste in your autoresponder in your email tool. For example, I'm currently off soaking up the sun and sipping Cloudy Bay with friends at the beach. I'll be back and responsive by Friday, July 5th. Cheers to summer vibes. If you want to check that out, the chatbot has been released on a specific landing page called Summer Fridays on Cloudy Bay. So this is one more bigger brand playing around with AI, using it, of course, for marketing, for fun, and maybe also for things that give you the feeling and also of course the opportunity to be closer to your favorite brand, to your favorite wine brand. I recently read an article on a brand that introduced an AI chatbot where you pay for chatting to this personal brand. It was not in the wine industry, it was something different. But can you imagine that? You don't have a subscription for the direct contact to the personal brand or the brand owner. You pay for chatting with an AI bot, and you know that you chat with an AI bot, but at least the feeling that you chat to a bot that is quite similar, that talks and writes like your idol, your personal brand, your artist, whatever the brand you are following. This is actually really interesting. And I mean, one of the biggest brands on the planet due to their Eras tour is Taylor Swift, and I guess there will be a Taylor Swift bot in the future where you pay, I don't know, €5 or so, and this is just to have the feeling that you talk to Taylor even though you know it's a machine. Interesting. This is is this what AI is made for? I don't think so, but it's a good way to use it for the good side of life and not, I mean, we all know that many people are afraid of using AI. You can do bad things with AI, but this is the funnier part of AI. Link in the show notes. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a great weekend. See you on Wednesday. Ciao, ciao.